Okay, finally. Finally, we are at the last chapter of Youth with Dio. Chapter 16, Youth with Dio, Part 5. Here we go. Here we fucking go. So Jonathan has crashed Dio through the ceiling. We get this cover page of that. There's like some narration. The flames have reached past the roof. More than 10 meters off the ground. Oh, it's pretty impressive. It must be a big fire. And it's saying their fight continues until they crash into the first floor. It will be over in an instant. And so here's this thing. So you remember back in chapter 12, that flashback. George says he was born into poverty. But here, Jonathan is thinking to himself, Joestar Mansion, where my ancestors lived. So, ooh, I got you there, Rocky. I got you there. Well, almost 40 years into the future. So, yeah, it's a little inconsistency. I mean, he's gonna. Jonathan says he will set my life ablaze and in turn seal away your demonic powers for good, Dio. And Dio's thinking to himself, ooh, my burns still haven't healed. If I really go down there, I might not actually make it. And then he goes, he like takes his legs and he crushes Jonathan's midsection. Look at that. Look at that. That's fucking. How did Jonathan live through that? That's jeez. That's a rough one. That's a really rough one. There's a panel of Dio. He's got these weird lines across, running down from his left eye down his cheek. And yeah, that's something that appears later, definitely. But it seems like he's starting to employ that. That's interesting. It's a little interesting thing, I would say. And this is the whole infamous "Goodbye, JoJo" scene where he sticks his hand in the wall and wait. Oh yeah. So he does the thing with the legs. He crushes Jonathan, and I guess that makes Jonathan let go. He's like, "Goodbye, JoJo," and he falls. And as he's falling, he sees the spear that was in his shoulder is falling too. So he grabs that and he like sticks it in the wall. And then he does this flip. He jumps off the top of it. It still isn't enough time to reach. And the anime did this next part the best it could. But like, I never really felt like he should have had enough time to like whip his belt out like that and use it to like latch onto Dio's foot. That's just, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Even for JoJo standards, that's just stupid. But yeah, he hangs on to Dio's leg, and I'd like to point out the whole spear thing really shows how resourceful Jonathan can be. Like, we definitely see resourcefulness in better ways from the other JoJos, but he's got something. He passed something down in those genes, that's for sure. So he does that. Dio's like, "What are you doing?" And I guess the waiter Jonathan pulls Dio off of the wall, so they're back to falling. And it's here that Jonathan reveals he had the knife from way at the beginning that Dio used to kill George with. That he has the knife on him still. And he goes to stab Dio in the side. And that hurts him, but like, you'd think he'd try to go for some sort of headshot. I mean, like, the skull is kind of a tough thing to pierce, but like, well, I mean, I guess like where he's stabbing Dio, it could kind of be close to where his heart is. Maybe that's what he's thinking, like stab his heart. But that seems like a random place to stab. And then it leaves him open to receive Dio's next attack, where he like crushes Jonathan's arms. And, but the thing with Jonathan is, he will come back. No matter how hard you beat him, he will not recoil, he will just keep going, as we saw in, Chapter 4, Chapter 5. And, yeah, Dio's like, oh shit, I broke both of his arms, but he's still going. And he's like, fine then, let us leap into this inferno together. But mark my words, you will be the only fatality. But the thing is, they both survive. I'm sorry I spoiled it, but they both survive. As they're falling, Jonathan goes, Father, give me the last of your power. And then there's some narration. Scream. He pleads with a scream. Did that scream of his reach his father's soul? Or did he unconsciously utilize the layout of the Joestar mansion where he was born and raised? He kicked the wall. And where did he kick himself to? But right above the statue of the Joestar family guardian deity, the goddess of love. I always liked that scene. I thought that was cool. Like, okay, it is kind of a contrivance-y. Like, it just so happened, but like, the way it's framed, it makes it feel like it was fate that Dio lost that way to the statue of the guardian deity of the Joestars, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, Jonathan does not really get points for having a plan. Like, I guess his plan was to probably die. Like, obviously he was hoping not to die, but he knew he would die if he had to. And, you know, that's the thing with Jonathan. He'll sacrifice himself for the greater good. But, yeah, Dio is screaming in pain. He's stuck in the little spear thing. Hold on, wait. So, like, we see the guardian deity has, like, this pointy ornament thing that they're holding. And, yeah, Dio falls right through it, but it's made to look like it's like a spire of rock or crumbled away column or something. So, unless, like, the statue, like, crumbled away before Dio's weight, I guess that could happen. There's a panel that might indicate that, I think. Yeah, that's weird. Then Dio, he burns alive. And Speedwagon's like, oh, holy shit. Just seeing the mansion. He doesn't really know what has happened yet. But Jonathan comes crashing through the window by sheer luck. And, yeah, Speedwagon rushes to him, and it turned out he's still alive. He won. And that's a chapter. So before we talk about what we just witnessed, there's a double-page spread at the end. The Shonen Jump app is just a really poor scan of this. You can clearly see the binding line right in the middle there, and it is the app that is the problem, because looking at the colored spread, it looks completely fine, and maybe part of that is like the colors obscuring some of the fine details, but even then, like, it's not clearly visibly mismatched or anything. But yeah, that was Youth with Dio. Can you tell I'm kind of burnt out on it? Like, I mean, there are going to be longer arcs, and probably more arcs where I will feel even more burnt out on. So that kind of has me a little worried. But my opinion on Youth with Dio has really changed. Like, for the longest time, I mean, I felt like Youth with Dio was a somewhat satisfying conclusion to the first little third of part 1. And for the most part, it kind of is. like, the most of the good stuff we see in, like, the first 2 chapters, especially, like, chapter 11, where we get all the confrontation with Dio, and he's finally getting his comeuppance, and then, this happens, and this was kind of a mess of an arc in a lot of ways. Mainly, like, Jonathan, in his lack of a proper plan, I felt like really hindered this arc. Like, realistically, I don't think it would be unreasonable for him to, like, not have a plan or really be trying to think on the fly. And given, like, Joseph, for example, I think there's good room to suggest that improv isn't really his forte, but, like, and I also just feel like Araki himself kind of struggled with the sequencing in a lot of things. And, yeah, it's kind of not that great. Like, I still can't get over the fact that Jonathan took the sword. He took this really cool sword. Maybe it was an ornamental sword. It was on the wall, so maybe it was dull. But he took this sword. He didn't even fucking fight with it. He used it to jump, to grab onto a ledge. Like, what the fuck? Oh man. I guess he got the job done. I mean, as far as he knows, at least, he got the job done. Yikes. There's another good thing about this art. Like, across this arc, it really seems like he's really upped his art, like, a lot. Like, I keep talking about the noses, but, like, they're 3D. They were not really very 3D before. They are more 3D now. It provides a level of depth. It is important, I promise you. The 3D noses are important. Like, even some other things. Like, how Araki has changed his approach in drawing Jonathan and Dio. Like, they're getting more detailed. They're looking more adult, too. Which is, yeah. Just saw someone on a 4-wheeler. Oh, well, whatever. But yeah, that's all I really got for this one. Yeah, jeez. I am not looking forward to Santana. The Santana fight in part 2. Like, when I did that one on Twitter, that was long. It felt boring, and I really did not like the arc afterward. Who knows, maybe when we get back to it, I will change my mind. But I kind of doubt it. So, yeah, until next time.